Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, and welcome to another episode of Fanalysis, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm Rutty4, this is Greyjoy91.
Hello.
This is Turk McGurk.
Greetings, my good Hotman.
And this is Antoine Bandelay.
Be water, my friends.
Lead us in with a summary of this episode, Matt.
Alright, so after that foolish sidetrack, that little detour we had in the last episode, we're back on track with trying to find an earthbending master. Aang sort of like encounters the girl from his vision in the swamp in the Blind Bandit episode. That's where we are. Oh, I totally fucked that up. It's book 2, episode 6, the Blind Bandit. I always say that first.
Hi.
Anyway, I'm sticking with it. You can see the flub. Everyone, we're not doing it again.
It feels like the show also kind of reminds itself too, of being like, oh yeah, he needs to find a earthbending master, which he has been doing for like the past 2 episodes. Because like right at the start, you have him seeing like basically like a dojo master who's like giving out belts for just the money to learn more earthbending skills.
Yeah, McDojo is what they call him here. In the
I knew that's what I was thinking about the whole. I was like, there's a term for this, and I forgot it. I was like, what is it? Yes, it's McDojo.
I've never heard that term, but it's brilliant. I love McDojo. Yeah,
that is funny.
Nope.
And after taking the lessons and quickly realizing that this is not the earthbending teacher for him, as you can probably guess, they hear about Earth Rumble 6, which they immediately try and find out the location of with Katara's feminine wiles.
The girl has her ways.
Yeah, that was amazing. Very Katara. I also like as well just before at the very start with Sokka when he's like, should I get this bag?
Yeah,
I love that. Yes,
it's like the continued power of stuff is being shown here.
Yeah,
and it's very Sokka. I like that again. Once again, they're capturing the character's core characteristics very early into every episode. But yeah, they go to Earth Rumble 6, with set up by the ringmaster Shinfu and his merry band. And we get a bunch of fights. Actually, a lot of this episode is just fighting, and it's really, really good.
Love it.
Yeah, it's one of those episodes where the action is the centerpiece, and because of the nuanced nature of it and the presentation of the fact that we've never seen earthbending on this level before, or at least of these different styles, it's really engaging. I like it.
Yeah, especially the styles. I like that you brought that up because so far we've kind of only seen like maybe Boomy being the most intricate, but
basic earthbending,
basic
earthbending and Boomy. That's all we've had thus far.
Right? Yeah. Basic earthbending and then Boomy. We haven't seen like the skilled people in the middle.
It's based on a kung fu style called Hungar, which is like super powerful and like straight to the point. So I feel like I see that as the series progresses. Like that's a thing that I see often, but not as awesome as we see it in this episode. So.
Right, because you can tell even later on, I forget the main guy's. What's the main guy's name? The one who runs this.
The guy who runs this place.
Shinfu. Yeah, the sequence that he has when he's attacking, you can tell they modeled that off of like footage. Because it's so clean how animated.
Love it.
The guy that does that, his name is Sifu Kisu. I don't really know exactly like what his credentials are, but I think he like was just friends. He's a consultant, of course, but I think he's
really?
I think he teaches the creators martial arts as well. But there's literally footage of him doing that exact sequence he does.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of fade like they start with like him and then like sort of transition, like with like a panning wipe or whatever, like in editing, like into the like raw captured footage of what he was doing. It's the exact same sequence.
That's what Walt Disney was doing too back in his original, the original movie, like Snow White and all those movies, Alice in Wonderland, were based off of like they actually have footage of someone who was dressed up as Alice, and she has like the dress and everything in the hair, and like she's just going through the script, and then you just have animators who are basically essentially rotoscoping over that performance.
Yeah.
And
it's the best way to do animation if you want to achieve the most realistic results. It's
having reference
to work with.
Having reference material like that to that degree. Yeah, I mean, if you can, then do it. That's actually the thing that really got me interested in Airbender. I was much older. A lot of my friends were like got into when they were like kids. And I was like, no, that looks dumb. And then when I was older, I was probably like 20. I saw some of the fight scenes. I was like, man, that looks like hardcore. Like that looks like kung fu, like straight up. And then as I got more into it, I realized, or I learned that they were all based on the martial arts forms that exist in real life. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. This is awesome.
Yeah, and just having the bending extend out of that, which is a very good thing. But Bull is pretty funny as a character. I love all his puns that he's got going on. He uses puns almost in every sequence too.
The Bull is going to win this.
His name is a good pun. He's the Rock. Like instead of the Rock, it's the Boulder.
Right, because these are wrestlers basically.
Yeah,
right now. Playing that up.
They have like the luchador.
Yep, they did.
masks and
That
it's
guy,
very
there was
obviously wrestling.
There was a character like that. I didn't watch like wrestling or whatever, but I was like aware of like some of the characters. There was a character looked like that. It's gonna bother me. I'm gonna have to look up who he was.
Yeah, no, I definitely was time.
Like,
And I love
that
how
was a-
Sokka is the one who's the WWE fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like Katara is the one that's like been dragged there and didn't really want to be there. But
This is
she's
going to
back.
be a bunch of guys chunking rocks at each other. That's what I paid for.
It's interesting you mentioned Antoine like a few minutes ago that we've had basic and boomy and like nothing in
Right.
between. Really, you don't see a lot of in between in this entire series. Really, like if you think about it.
Not for Earthbender,
Yeah, because even these guys are pretty good though. Like even though like they get overshadowed by Toph, they're decent as well.
Yeah, they're not
These
in
guys, you've got like the Dai Li and Toph, and like that's pretty much it going forward.
Daily.
Right.
It's probably because the most basic earthbending style is somewhat boring to look at. I think we've spoken about it before. You have to really elevate it to the extreme to get a properly engaging and dynamic kind of moveset. In comparison to the other bending styles, anyway, with the exception of possibly firebending. But that you usually have that done in like formation with the soldiers, so it looks a bit cooler. Because again, you have to be elite to make it really really cool to watch. But
It's pretty fluid. Like I feel like
Actually-
firebending's pretty fluid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even in like the real styles, Hungar is a lot less flashier because it's more. It's like the element of Earth where it's like very upfront and straightforward and to the point.
Yeah.
Where the other styles are a little more like Tai Chi is very like circular and flashy. Bagua, which is airbending, is like super flashy. But yeah, no, you'd have to be a master to make that look cool. Which Boomy made it look cool. Just saying.
yeah. Like I say, it's one of my it's my favorite style in terms of visual effect. Just it has to be done with that specific flair to it because I'm not a fan of the basic earthbending. It looks boring to me. But when you have a true master doing the kind of small, efficient jabs and weaves, very cool.
Right, like when you have Toph doing her like three-fingered
I love that.
spinning
That's
of
Yeah,
and then like the
so
three
cool.
fingers of the earth
My
come out.
favorite.
Like that's really
It's one of my
dope,
favorite
yeah.
moves you see her do. This fight is one of my favorite examples of her earthbending full stop for me. Like it gets
Right.
really good elsewhere, obviously, but this is definitely up there in the top 5 for me.
It's a
top
really good
moments.
intro to her.
Mm.
Really great intro to her.
And even
The
the
foot
very first
slide
move,
as
which
well.
is like, yeah, exactly, the foot slide being that first move that we see from her is like, oh, whoa, we've not seen someone earthbend like that. Like, usually it's just throwing rocks at other person.
And like the whole mastery of the style, like even like in real martial arts is like minimal effort usually is like an indicator of a master. It's like you let them do all the work and they just kind of punch themselves out. So that the concept behind her is like waiting and listening is so cool. Love it.
But we get the introduction of the seismic sense and how she, as a blind individual, operates as a bender in combat.
Which, by the way, we all know it's seismic sense. When was it actually named? Because it's not named in this episode. 'Cause I wonder, is it brought up here with name? And it isn't.
Isn't it
So
one
I'm
of those things that comes up with in those little commentary subtitles?
Yeah, I don't-
Is it one
I
of
don't
the
think
Avatar
they-
extras?
Yeah, they
pretty
never
sure
named
that-
it.
I'm pretty sure that no one ever like says this is my seismic sensibility.
Yeah, 'cause I'm like,
in
how do
either
we all
series.
know it's called
No
seismic
one
sense,
says that.
but we don't ever hear it in the show? I was like, wait, did I just make that up in my brain? Like, did we clearly just like make up that
I
term?
don't know.
and
I'm
all
pretty
that-
sure it was said in the commentary
It's
at
how
some
the
point.
fandom knows it.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
how we know it, but it's just everyone knows what you're talking about when you say
Right.
that.
Yeah, it's like a unicorn. But yeah, the introduction of that ability is kind of shown for us visually in like the black and white of the kind of radar effect pinging back and forth, which is really cool. I mean, it's, the fact that it comes out of nowhere as well. It doesn't give you a lead in. It just with the
Right.
entire
And there isn't
sequence
like a
with the moves.
Naruto explanation where they take you
Yes,
the whole
yeah.
episode to tell you this is my seismic sense and this is how it's
Yeah.
going to work for another 20 minutes and then the next
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, it's definitely not my
No,
favorite
we're
thing about
good.
anime in general. But yeah,
Nope.
it's
Which is why
show
this
don't
is
tell.
the best.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the good ones. Whether you count it as
It's
one,
not
or
even
not,
anime.
why it doesn't qualify as
Yeah,
anime.
depending
Yeah, no,
on-
it's not even anime,
it's
and
a
it's
huge
certain what anime
huge
tries to do.
it's a huge discussion on what anime is because all anime really means
That's
is
true, that's
cartoon in Japanese,
Animation.
In Japanese, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
or animation in cartoon in Japanese, yeah. But yeah, so we get the kind of fight with Toph, and Aang quickly realizes that when Katara asks how's she doing that, he says she's waiting and listening. It's the cue from Boomy that this is the sort of person that she needs to get trained by, and he wants to get in communication with her. So he jumps into the ring and says, "I'll fight her," purely for the chance to talk. But she doesn't take much. She doesn't take to that very well. So he accidentally ends up defeating her with his.
Yeah,
airbending.
and then she immediately calls him Twinkle Toes, and that's
Yep.
his name.
Yep, that's it. You are now Twinkle Toes for the rest of time. Somebody's a
He
little
looked
light
Someone's a
on
little
their
light
feet.
on their feet.
Yeah.
I think that's a better name.
And I love
like,
she calls him a
because-
girl too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She played around with Fancy Dancer before that, and then settled on Twinkle
Oh,
Toes, which is
right.
much
Yep.
better. Yeah.
What's your fighting name? Fancy Dancer.
Yeah, that one doesn't roll off the tongue as well.
He actually is a fancy dancer, though.
Yeah,
He
it
really
is,
is.
yeah.
It's great.
It's great. Yeah. I really love the
Oh, yeah, I remember the book 3 dancing.
introduction to
That was
Toph,
cool.
both in terms of her fighting style, because that is a large portion of her character, but also her personality, because they really do a
Yeah.
lot with the short space of time. You know, establishing her kind of upfront, brutal nature without taking away from that kind of personal flair. She could have been really just snippy here, and she's not. She's got some character to her.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask a question? Because I've never quite understood this. So the guy offers up a purse to whoever can beat the blind bandit.
Right.
I know he gets mad when he thinks he's been fleeced for how they got it, but really why does he care? Really, was it going to be hers, or who was going to get that money if no one challenged her?
Yeah,
no
that's
one.
true.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Whether it's split or not is that why
It
does it
always
matter?
feels this
Probably wasn't
confrontation
going to go
always
to her at
felt
all.
okay. This confrontation where
reason.
he's after her just always felt like a little contrived for me, because we need a fight to happen and we need to establish her as the badass of the Earth Kingdom, which I get. But
Unless it's a thing where it had to be earthbending, and it clearly wasn't, so he had to go see with that. But it doesn't
yeah,
really
but he
specify that so much. He just said
Yeah.
anyone who can beat her. He didn't say with earthbending. Even though it's called Earth Rumble 6. Yeah, so it's kind of up in the air on
it's
that one.
just
I agree.
odd. Yeah. Because he had no real stake in the prize other than I just won't give it to you. Because he would have been perfectly happy to give it if somebody
Yeah.
won,
Yeah.
But whatever.
I had the same thought.
Right. Or he never expected to give, never expected Blind Bandit to actually lose. Right. And so the money
Then
would have
he's
never been
just
given to her.
stupid.
Yeah,
Because-
and then giving it, and it was oh, she took a dive and split the money because she knew she wasn't going to get that money.
Yeah.
It would have to be that, I think, to
That's
have it make the most sense. But yeah, still a strange setup because it doesn't actually clarify on that one. But yeah,
The next day.
yeah, Toy accidentally beats Toph. Toph walks off in a huff, understandably. And Sokka's new belt goes with a bag. That's quite important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like
he's
when
a
he
it's
big-
a big
he
relationship.
hugs Shinfu, as soon as they.
Oh, yeah, that's
walk
right.
up
When
there,
he
he
Yeah.
it's I'll take the belt, man.
he
Thank you.
goes and hugs him and
It's so
so
weird.
I actually noticed a couple of things like that in the background throughout the episode where Sokka's doing something weird and random that Sokka would do, and it's if you're not paying attention, you miss it.
It's true, because he really has nothing of actual substance to do in this entire episode.
What do you
Like a
mean?
goof.
I think his comedic.
There's-
Yeah, he's great.
You cannot argue that he
This is
helped on any level. That,
I mean-
I'm shutting
No,
that down.
help with anything.
He brought Sokka comedy. He
Yeah.
didn't
Right,
actually
that's it.
do anything. That's my only contention.
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm right.
Unlike last
Yeah.
episode where his investigation did lead to something within the plot.
Well, one of my favorite Sokka quotes ever is in it, and
Right, which is coming up.
It's going to be the next one, yeah. But the particular comedic moment for me, it happens later on when he's freeing Aang. That's just hilarious to me. But the next scene comes up with them going back to the dojo to try and find some news on Toph, with Katara going, yeah, I didn't think so, when they kind of make jabs towards them.
Well, and also finding out that Toph is a freaking rich girl.
Yes, yeah.
She's one of the richest people in Earth Kingdom, period.
Perhaps
Maybe
in the
even the
world.
world.
Yeah.
Right, which is funny from
They
a sitting
bongs.
perspective because they're
Yeah.
oh yeah, they're the richest here, so they must be the richest everywhere, kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
It's very clearly not the
But
case.
I love that.
but they
That's
don't
a
know
very
that.
Earthbender mentality, though, to feel like the rich people in your town. They always have a sense of pride. I think all Earthbenders, Boomy self-proclaims himself as the best Earthbender ever. Toph does the same thing. These kids think that their rich person in their town is the richest in the entire world. They all have this very close-knit
it's
sense
like
of
they're
pride.
from Texas.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
it's,
oh my god, it's like being in Texas. Yes,
it's a grounded
Earth Kingdom
sense
is like
of
being in Texas.
yeah, it's a grounded sense of place. You put a lot of stock in where you come from.
Right,
That's how
right.
your philosophy has to work to make earthbending work full stop. To have roots and strong ones. So it makes sense for them to have this kind of attachment to where they are. And if you've got the richest people in your town, it must be the richest people anywhere. It's for at
It's
least
worth
the younger,
noting that
the younger people.
It's worth noting that they are basically in the Southern Earth Kingdom. They are confirmed as the richest. So in effect, they may be. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Aside from royalty, they probably are. And that her name gets them into Ba Sing Se, or would have, even though they had no money. You remember?
Yeah.
Mhm.
When
My name
they're
is
trying to
Top
get in.
Ping Pong, and I'll need 4
Yes.
tickets.
They weren't going to let the Avatar in, or the fake
Yeah.
Avatar, but they'll let a Beifong in. Yeah.
And I wonder how they do that. I wonder if they just have a really good business mind, because later on we see with Suyin, she's able to build her own city, and she seems pretty well off herself as well. Like, she seems to be doing that pretty well.
Yeah, must have inherited something to pull that kind of win off without any
a whole town off.
Zaofu, that place is awesome.
It is
we
very,
won't talk
very
about
cool.
that.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. But it's super cool. But yeah, water trap. As they find out
that's my favorite.
And his walk out though. It's the way
I got my eye on you.
It's the swagger. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, they find out
that little thing with his arms that he does, like he's a bird or something, like soaring. It's the best.
Yeah, the kind of it's I don't know what you would call it, but it's funny, whatever it is. They head out to Toph's mansion though, it's the Beifong estate, and find her in the garden.
And the reason why they know it is because the sigil of the
yes, the Beifong
which basically
family.
looks like the Hogwarts whatchamacallit symbol, except with wings.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Flying boar.
Yeah.
But yeah, they go to the estate and find her in the garden, and we get the I'm a helpless little girl play.
Even that is the fact that she knew that they were there. I think it's a dope little tidbit because she's able to sense them, similar to later on when she's able to sense the ambush. So like they don't really talk, like that's not an overt thing. It's really like a subtle like, oh, how did she know that they were there? Oh, because she's got seismic sense. You know what I mean? Like I think that was really dope.
She even knew it was Aang. He's like, how'd you know it was me? She's like, what are you doing here, Twinkle Toes? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and they haven't even they haven't even fully explained how that ability works yet. That comes later. So it's nice that they're respecting the audience's intelligence enough to say that that visual cue at the start was very clearly how she did it. You don't need obviously the explanation comes later as well, but you don't need it at this point. It's
you do though, like no, but the reason you do need it is so that it holds up upon review, because this is a consistent part of her character going forward. So if she didn't have it now, when you rewatch it, you go, wait, what, did she just magically get that ability? Let's say no, she had it. But look, we thought about this before we wrote it because we know what we're doing.
Oh yeah, no.
Well,
I don't mean that they
didn't
have to explain it in that later scene. I just meant that we don't need it immediately. It can sit for a bit and then have it brought in when the character is ready to reveal it. As part of
what lesser stories do.
Yeah, but they talk about it later in the same episode. So I like how the belt comes, the bag comes back around. He's like, "Don't answer to Twinkle Toes. It's not manly." It's like, you're the one whose belt matches his bag.
Yeah, it's so funny. The comedy attached to soccer in this episode is particularly strong. I mean, it always is, but there's a lot of it in this one, and Katara plays off it well as well. But yeah, Toph isn't ready to talk. She's not over her loss yet, basically, and gets them thrown out of the garden by calling for the guards. With like, oh guards, help me! I like
how that establishes her character too. She's like, that's not my problem. Don't care. You have to save the world. Not my problem.
Yep.
Love it.
Carry your own load. It's something that sticks with her moving forward.
And the dinner sequence, I think, is pretty... Well, and also just the fact that the way they get in, similar to the way Beifong's name can get them in anywhere. Avatar, Aang's just like, I'm the Avatar, I'd like to speak with you. And he's like, yeah, come on in.
Who deigns to think they can just turn up unannounced? The Avatar, sir.
The Avatar.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Fair enough, touche. But that scene happens before we get the establishment of her having an earthbending teacher who basically just teaches her the basics. And it sets up the family dynamic because... that's kind of her biggest... Obviously, it gets explored later in the episode, but to bring it up here, that's kind of her biggest character shtick. People say often that she hasn't got that much of an arc or development, and it's definitely true that she's got the least of the main cast. But she does have, with exception obviously of May and Ty Lee, but she does have an emotional kind of through line that's attached to her character, even if it doesn't get dived into.
But I like that she
much.
stays the same, because I don't think every character needs to necessarily have like this grand change to be a good character, and I think Toph is one of them, and there's many other characters like Toph, not just Toph on her own. But I feel like in modern storytelling or modern sensibilities of critique, most people are always honed in on just like, does your character have an arc? Is there like a change? And that's not necessarily a vital aspect of having a good character.
Yeah, completely agree. And it's so obviously not the point of Toph as well. She's not someone who, by a very nature of her philosophy and quote unquote maturity, she needs one. She does have issues and she does overcome them, but they're in small tidbit moments throughout the seasons. These specific scenes that add to the growing pile for her as we move along. She doesn't need great episodes devoted to her. It kind of goes against the point.
Right,
of the
well,
character.
She doesn't actually, and I think she doesn't have. Does she have any individual?
She has,
because she even says, she mentions it later where she's like, Zuko, I didn't get to go on an adventure with Zuko, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the closest one you've got is when it's attached to the fight she has with Katara. Pretty much, that's the most you get to a devoted.
Right, and it's a duo thing.
Yeah,
but it's a duo one.
But You have little
That's actually
moments
the one I
like
was
that.
going to mention.
Yeah, there were loads of little different scenes like that come up, specifically attached to her parents and her, personality as a result of the way she was brought up.
Well,
but that's basically all you get,
also,
and I like that. She doesn't need a great deal to her.
There's also, bitter work, which we haven't gotten there yet, but that's another one too, where it's like, thanks, Katara, I'll try that. It's like she tries something a little different, and for a character like that, I totally relate. And like something that I had to learn, maturing is like. Being maybe a little nicer, less rough around the edges when you're trying to get your point across, or just like that level of tact and maturity that I think she obtains throughout the series. So that's something that I don't think anyone talks about.
Her development comes in
like,
bits and pieces, basically.
Yeah, she doesn't need as much development as others, but at the same time, it's the reason why I don't think she's or can be my favorite character. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of like it's not really like a limitation or a problem with her. It's just there's a reason why Zuko appeals more, and it is the strength of his character arc. Hers, she doesn't need one, but I've said that she feels like she's already sort of complete to me. Like when she comes in,
right?
And I stand by that.
She has a completed thing for herself.
Yeah, it's even to the point where I would argue that this thing with her parents isn't really ever completely resolved. Like maybe she's okay with it, but we never really see them again. So who knows how they feel?
It's
I
resolved
even forgot.
It's resolved in the darn comic books, but yeah, it's not done in the show.
Okay, yeah. See, my knowledge of the comics is sort of, anyway.
It's okay. But, we're gonna get you there, bro.
Yeah.
He's like,
but yeah, I completely agree that the character is. I wouldn't say fully formed because obviously she has got some growth to go through, but at the same time, everything we have with her is refinement. It's not,
right.
She doesn't need to be defined.
Yeah, it's more
just
refinement. Yeah, exactly.
That's one of her
older Toph. She's the same lady.
Yeah,
that's actually one of her.
Yeah.
That's one of her things later is when she says it. It's like, I know who I am. There's never been a question of it, whether she's like, I love myself, I'm so great, or not. It's like, I know who I am. That's, there's no if, ands, or buts about that. So.
Yeah, and it fits her personality and her bending as well. For a master, supreme master bender of Earth, that this personality is almost requirement. You can't be, shaking on your feet about these sort of things.
I can't underscore enough that I don't think it's a problem. I just think it's objectively true that she changes the least, overall.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's my favorite. Her and Zuko.
She's many people's favorite. It's not. Yeah.
Her and Zuko, but I think because I relate to them the most, like Toph is like little girl, that was me as a child. So it's like, oh my god, I love it. Like if I were in this story as a kid, it would be Toph. But Zuko definitely appeals, I think, to like teenager me for sure.
A lot of angst there.
A lot of like being torn and conflicted, but whatever. Zuko's not even in this episode.
Yeah,
which you mentioned last time.
But that's the strength of Zuko, is he comes up even when he's not there. That's the power of his arc. That's what I'm saying.
He's like one of the greatest villains ever.
Yeah.
Greatest characters ever, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But we get this is the establishment of her parent issue. Obviously, we get a nice capstone of it.
Well, the very
resolution of it at the end of the episode. Yeah, very very overprotective. But this leads us into the Avatar going in for the dinner scene. When he's basically trying to strong arm Toph into engaging with him and joining the gang. But because he obviously doesn't know about the parent problem at this point.
He's overprotective, but also like. I think maybe they're more blind than she is.
Easily. Toph is. We'll get to it at the exit, but Toph is absolutely in the right here. It's not like there's a question of who's more.
I mean, they're a bit dim, Like they don't seem to. It's one thing if they like genuinely are blind to like what she's capable of doing, but even after they figure this out, they don't really change. They're
idiots.
They are
a little weird.
Even though she is legit the best Earthbender they've probably ever seen.
Yeah.
They're still like, no.
He says it.
Coddle,
the master
coddle.
says it.
Yeah, he says it in
the greatest
seats.
Earthbender I've ever seen. Yeah.
With such revelry as well. She's the greatest Earthbender I've ever seen. It's like,
and now I'm going to try to hunt her and capture her.
Yeah.
Right, which I forgot. When that happened, I actually forgot how that, like, do they come up again and try to capture them?
No, they do,
remember.
That's how she discovers metal bender.
Anyway, like, yeah.
But yeah, that's way later.
Oh, right, because they do trap her in that metal box, right? And that's when she learns metal bending, right? Or am I crazy?
Right,
or was that
that's correct.
No, that's what happens. Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, I always imagined that, or in my memory, that was a Fire Nation thing and not these guys. Okay, never mind.
That was these guys, yeah.
But yeah, well, we get the dinner scene, which is as amusingly awkward as you can imagine, with Toph using the earthbending and Aang sneeze bending. I mean, I feel bad for those. I love how you just knocked your headset off then. I feel bad for those bystanders on the other side of the table. So they did nothing wrong, and they just completely pasted.
I know, like they don't say anything. No one's angry. It's like, oh, shall we move to the living room for dessert?
Yep.
Like what?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it washes off fairly quickly. They one wipe and they're all completely clean. So
Yeah.
Animation. But yeah, they.
Animation. Yeah.
We get the scene where Toph calls a truce, and Aang and her go into the garden to discuss her origins, and properly dive into the explanation of her seismic sense and how it helps define who she is as a not really a blind person.
What I appreciate about this is how very platonic this is. Mm-hmm. It's not, this is just she's found a friend, not will he be my boyfriend?
Right.
That's what's so funny about that. I don't know if you guys know, but. Fun fact, she's the voice of Mang.
Right. We brought that up, actually.
So
in the
funny.
Fortune Teller
episode.
Yeah.
Wait, who is this Mang person?
Fortune Teller episode.
The fangirl.
The one with the crazy hair.
Oh, that's right.
You
no,
floozy.
That rhymes with Mang.
Right. Yeah. That's a dark episode for us. We got into a debate there.
Yes.
But, anyway.
I like you brought that up because it's very true, because they could have easily, when they had a little bickering war at the dinner table, when he's like, you suck, whatever. Usually they make that into like a, oh, you must really like her kind of a situation. But yes, I do like that. It is, especially for male females in media, they usually have to end up liking each other. And it's like, no, there's plenty of relationships out there between man and woman that's just completely just friendships.
And the way they write these two,
they're taking a moonlit stroll, and it's still very platonic. I love how
it hadn't even occurred to me until you just brought that up right now. I was like, I guess they're pretty, like, I mean, I grew up around, like, nothing but boys. I had a lot of, like, dude friends, and, like, it's so weird, I think, for, like, onlookers who aren't used to that. Like, is there something going on there? Like, no.
Like, who's she with in that group?
Nobody.
You know?
Nobody. They're all friends.
But the thing is, though,
stays that way.
It feels like
it stays that way, even though a little bit she clearly, has little crushes on, I think even Sokka.
Yeah, Sokka is the main one,
but for sure, Zuko.
But the thing as well is that I think it's not just because Aang's lined up for Katara. I think the way they write the interplay between these two, there was never going to be any potential for that here. They clearly had their eyes set on platonic development, which it's like I said, it's very rare. It's nice to see. It wasn't just because Aang's already taken, so these guys can be friends. It was clearly their personalities jibe so well that this was always going to be this type of relationship, and it's nice to see it written so well. Even the way they shoot the scene with her kind of walking on the bridge with her arms outstretched, just reveling in the freedom. It was really cool.
And it's cool, like she's like, even those ants over there, and he's like, wow, that's amazing. He's like taken, like, whoa, that's so cool. Like, teach.
And
it's not
the ants specifically, he can't see the ants. I love how he's looking around, like it's showing and not telling the point that she can see more than most people, even though she's blind. It's really cool how they highlight that.
If this were a film, that'd be a really cool shot.
As well. The shots and the angles of the quote unquote camera, very, very effective.
Sorry, depending on who's doing it.
It's funny that M. Night has said in an interview as early as like 3 years ago, "Oh yeah, we're still making two. We're making number two."
No,
we're not.
Happening.
No. We're not talking.
Imagine what he would do with Toph, guys. Imagine.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I really don't.
No idea what you're talking about. This is some conspiracy theory shit.
Yeah.
But that's what I said in the recording, though.
The
fact that he'd spoken recently that he might do another one. I said, "What? No, please no."
No way. I also like the it's a small detail, but I like that her hair is different when like her parents see her, and like when she's just being comfortable. I like that she is very much dolled up, like for them, and that's not her. I really like that.
That's something I completely relate to. I think another reason that I personally love Toph so much is like that expectation as like a little girl, like what you need to be and what your parents need to be or want you to be, and what she actually is, and like sort of having this like, but that's not me, Love Toph, which is great.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about the end of the episode because it's one of my favorite parts of this episode. I've almost forgot about in terms of the scale because there's so much distraction with the action. But yeah, the gun scene ends basically with Aang kind of inviting her to join the gang, but she's just like, it's a great, that's the life, but it's just not my life, and she's not quite come to terms with again, probably because she's of earthbending roots, not quite come to the terms with the idea of severing herself from her home and her family. They're her parents. Well, what's she supposed to do? she's not kind of grasped that yet, which is another little example of a small individual, small scale tidbit that she gets past. A little bit of development. Everything with her is small scale.
I also think that even though she's obviously already a great fighter and she doesn't really need to test herself on that level, she hasn't actually made a difference in her life yet. You know what I mean? I mean, it's only been tournament fighting, or she's made a difference in her life, but she hasn't helped somebody or saved somebody, or when she helps them get Aang back. I think that's her new Jones. Okay, I like this. I'm doing this. I don't care what you say. This is what I need.
Yeah.
So yeah. Because otherwise, her motivation would have been the same as Katara's when she first met Aang. Take me away so I can learn bending or whatever. Take me away so I can go on an adventure. She didn't really know she wanted adventure yet,
Yeah, she had to discover that for herself. Yeah, which is very cool and very tough as well.
And then they're captured.
Yeah, this is where it doesn't make sense.
I saw you had a note about this.
Yeah, how exactly?
You had a different complaint than even I did. I was like, how the fuck did they find out who she was? Did they know she was a Beifong? Because it seemed like nobody knew who the Blind Bandit was earlier in the episode. Yeah. So how'd they track her?
See, I can buy that Shinfu did his research on her or found out something behind the scenes beforehand. He knew. I could buy that. That's fine. But what I don't understand is how the hell that she didn't realize they were stood there on the bloody wall with a set of metal metal cages.
These are both very clearly done because we only have so much time.
Yeah.
But it is a question mark.
Well, and here's the idea too, because there's a lot of them, so I wonder how far her abilities go. Where if there's 5 dudes all around, can she really keep track? Just like your real sight, you can see 5 dudes, but you can't keep track of all of them.
She can definitely keep track of all of them because she does it with much larger scale situations in the future, as well as much more.
Yeah.
Well, when she's an old lady, I feel like she's sensing the whole planet.
Yeah, she literally says, "I can sense the entire planet right now."
Oh, goddamn tree.
Yeah.
Where the hell is the tree?
But obviously, maybe she's not that skilled yet. But still, it would be you're in my backyard. You're literally in my backyard. I would think she could feel them. But that was something that I didn't even occur to me until I saw your note. But I was just how did they find out who she was?
I mean, she senses that they're there and they're about to be ambushed, but she can't sense them standing there on the wall.
Also, yeah.
She even runs towards them, which is ridiculous.
The Beifongs have terrible guards. I just realized that.
That's true.
They do,
No, they're awful.
Unless they were just taken out by the Earthbenders, because they were probably outclassed if they're normies.
They weren't around when Aang and Sokka and Katara just hopped the fence.
That's true. That's true.
I mean. Yeah. I mean, Sokka should not be able to get in there without being noticed.
He literally falls when they jump.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, but they're clearly not getting paid enough. That's how they keep their wealth, the Beifongs.
Oh, I think they're getting paid too much, actually. But in any case.
But the gang find the ransom note from the 2 being taken prisoner, and Sokka's very blasé about how he pulls a knife out. Hey, look, this is the message left behind. It's, oh my god, the autograph!
Yeah, he's like a serious note. He's like, oh, I can't believe it. I have the Boulder's autograph.
Yeah, it's very Sokka. He clearly does not fear for Aang's safety at this point. And to be honest, why would you? Avatar.
No, they're just wrestlers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he's the Avatar, and also they're wrestlers.
Yeah, from his perspective, and he's also seen Toph as well. So from his perspective, these guys are not the people he has to worry about if they get captured. But at the same time, it is a bit, tonally odd that we've got these parents immediately going into grieving state, or at least the mother at this point. And Sokka's just cracking a joke. So I was like,
that would be
odd.
Sokka. Welcome to Sokka.
Yeah, it's his inner Toph of insensitivity appearing. But we get them going to this. Basically, immediately smash cut straight to the arena with Toph laughing and jabbing at the prison or the kidnappers as they immediately turn up to pay the ransom.
She's angry about it. She's like, "You think you're so tough? Don't you come here so I can slap that grin off your face?"
I'm not smiling.
I was like those moments where she tries to do something and fails because she's blind. Not to laugh at a blind person, but she's so badass that it is funny to watch her slip up every now and then. Mm-hmm. I'm not smiling.
Yeah,
comes up only a few times, but it's always funny throughout the series.
Yeah, because she is blind at this point. She's up in the cage in the air, so she can't sense them. So it makes sense. And the moments when the amount of times they play the running gag of her not even at the end of this episode, which is where they kind of introduce it, where everyone forgets that she's not blind. Or that she is blind, rather. But she's because of how she's not really
in situations where that's when she's on Appa, she can't.
Yeah, which is got to be terrifying for her.
Yeah,
what's
I love it.
Blind. I love that moment.
It
sounds like a sheet of paper, but I suppose you mean what's on the sheet of paper.
Right. My favorite one's always been when they're hanging up posters. Wanted posters, and she puts it on backwards.
Yeah, it's upside down, isn't it?
It's backwards, isn't it?
No, it's not even that. It's upside down, isn't it?
Down.
Yeah,
or whatever.
She gets it wrong with the way she got it wrong. it's brilliant. It's so perfect.
This is why I can't play the quotes game. Totally.
I had my friend. I have that poster in my room, and obviously everyone knows me for like loving Toph. So he came into my room when I wasn't. I had gone to the restroom or something. I came back and the poster was flipped upside down. It was like, wow, really?
That's
so
cute.
dumb.
That's funny. But yeah, we have the kind of ransom being passed over, and Toph is freed, but they don't free the Avatar because they want to take Aang to the Fire Nation. Much more money, even though that's kind of the height of stupidity. Let's give the one hope for humanity over to his doom. Yeah. Hey, but I get some gold.
This is so that we can have like villain fight. Like this is just an excuse for Toph to have an excuse to kick their ass and not feel bad about it.
And Katara calls her out saying, "Please, we need your help. We need your earthbending." And this is when she breaks away saying, "Yes, I can." I love the line from her father as well. It's very on the nose and
Oh yeah, I thought that was way
top.
on the nose.
Yeah,
she's tiny and fragile and weak and
precisely.
terrible.
Yeah, it's really writing wise.
She cannot help you.
Yeah, she's hopeless and fragile. But to me, it's the delivery. The line itself is terrible, but the way he delivers it, and with what we know about the parent in general, it's really effective for me. Especially considering she just acts like she's not affronted by it. She just goes, "Ugh, I'm sick of this," and moves on without it.
Like you can tell it really pisses her off, like hearing that. Like, oh, I'm not in any of those freaking things.
Because it's flatly ridiculous. But that's what. Anyway, yeah.
One of my friends, I showed that episode too, and he laughed his ass off at that line, and so that's actually one of our like running quotes that we like when we see each other. We'll quote that line from the dad. So good.
But yeah, she moves out of the tunnel and proceeds to kick all of their asses, single-handedly. Sokka and Katara jump to help, and she's like, "No, they're mine." And Sokka and Katara then spend the rest of the time trying to break Aang out. The moment I mentioned earlier that I particularly love is when he finally break him out, Aang moves to assist, and Sokka's like, no, just no. He's so done. He's like, look, it's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Look.
He like shakes his head and looks.
It's the animation of his face though. It's so he's warped and really cartoonish for the joke, and it just looks brilliant to me. It's hilarious.
Yep.
Don't worry about it. She's fine, as she then throws another person straight out of the dust. And then obviously the dust clears after she's got rid of she's cut through the wheat, and then we get the fight with her and Shifu, which you mentioned earlier, Antoine.
Yeah. I like her defensive way of fighting, because with a lot of earthbending, they do throw up their walk walls occasionally and like throw the rocks out, but she brings her offense forth from her defense, which I liked a lot about her style in this particular fight.
She waits.
I like that he was not horribly outclassed in a she's just way better than he can be.
It's not a case of him being bad, it's just her being better. Right.
Yeah, because he's like really accurate. If she didn't have Toph abilities, there's every chance he might have nailed her even after, because she moves like half of her shield, uses as a projectile, and he takes advantage of that. And if she wasn't Toph, that could have hit her,
And again,
he does it very quickly too. Like it's in quick succession. You know what I mean?
He's up there. Like he's, other than like Boomy, and like maybe the leader.
Oh, the general guy. Well, the general guy that we were talking about earlier from Avatar State, episode 1.
But this guy's pretty much the best bender we see in this series. There's not a lot of badass earthbenders in the first series. There's lots of them in Korra, for my money anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there is. Sorry.
But even outside of the Beifongs, though, there aren't that many of them. They always seem to get the short shrift when it comes to just the generic average bender.
I don't know, dude. You have like a lack of appreciation for what Ghazan can do.
Oh yeah, obviously there are exceptions. But I mean, in terms of the average person, outside of the main characters, there aren't that many. Considering what we get from all of the other bending styles, the average person seems to do a lot more in both series. It always gets the short shrift.
Yeah, for sure.
It's because they throw rocks at everyone.
It's just going to be a bunch of guys throwing rocks at each other, isn't it? Well, that's what I paid for. But
I feel like I like the theme of her before this part, like where she took away everyone else's sight, and so they were all even.
Yeah, with the dust cloud.
They weren't, because she had
some straight ninja shit.
She Batman's them.
Yeah, it's like I was thinking, can't they just that's just earth in the air? Can't they just get rid of it? And like what she immediately does.
Yeah, that too. But also the guy who goes underground, how does he? Because I would think he'd have to be like Toph if he knows where to come up and attack. Because when he does it, it's like, wait a minute.
Well, Bumi's done it.
Yeah,
well, I know Bumi's done it, but how is this guy doing it as well?
Like, you know what I mean? He spent the whole. These are wrestling, they all have shit. You know what I mean? Like
even the Fire Nation guy.
He was really precise with it. He came up right where he was supposed to. Like there was a bunch of people stomping on your head. You don't know if it's I guess it's Toph because smaller pats, but I don't know. That
well,
was
I mean, eyeballing it when you first get into the hole, and then moving quickly so they don't have much time to move, and then sensing the vague vibrations, even if you don't have TOF, levels of sensing. Yeah. I can buy it if it's your whole shtick. I meant to mention earlier as well, when you first see the Fire Nation guy, it looks very much like he's airbending. Obviously he isn't, but he comes in literally as a whirling tornado and stops. And wait, what?
I think he's like a sandbender.
It looks like he's supposed to be something like that, yeah. Because he does even his ability does kind of like a side swipe into the floor, which is pretty cool to watch. I like all of their dynamic abilities. Even the stuff that's kind of new to us at this point with the guy with the luchador mask who jumps up on the two rocks. He's kind of levitating himself with the earthbending power.
Right, yeah, that was kind of cool.
Which doesn't get used enough in this series, in my opinion. The ability to do that, because they do have that potential.
Because you can legit levitate yourself if you're just on a rock, you know what I mean? Like, that'd be such a dope little fight too if someone just like levitating on a rock and like doing earthbending. That's like a dope visual. Yeah, dope visual.
Tsuchikage style. But
just talking about Toph again, the whole like master element of her bending is like minimal effort. Like I said, mimicking real life masters where it's like minimal effort. Just their moves are just literally just waiting and listening for your opponent to just sort of mess up or come at you.
But yeah, she barely moves in this whole fight.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing about her style. That she's just very efficient.
Yeah, any kung fu master, like they all have that in common. Just like punch yourself out.
It's really funny how like every other bending discipline you can kind of argue for who's the best that we see, but you can't argue it with earthbending.
It's just no question. No one is on par with Toph. She's ludicrously powerful.
Boomy?
No, not even
that's
close.
Actually brought up, and they are like canonically equal.
I disagree with that.
I don't see how that can be.
Boo.
Bear in mind he's in his like 9, well, probably more than that. He's definitely more than that. He's over 100. And she's 10. She's accomplishing this at she's nowhere close to her prime. Even some simple things like I'm really bad at, or not very good at sandbending. Like a month later, after a vague bit of practice, and she can create an entire replica of Ba Sing Se like that. She's ludicrously good.
I'm totally fine if Boomy can like compete with Toph and maybe even win like at this point, but like.
Well, if you're talking about prime stuff,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, that's what we're talking about. I thought you were talking about
just her character in general, like in the setting, like
gotcha.
Wherever you want to draw the line, I don't care. At some point, it's tough, but
I think that at this point in time, Boomy has experience. He's older.
Yeah, I'll give him that. I'm not saying she's gonna wipe the floor with Boomy, but
absolutely not.
I would just put her over him.
Old Boomy versus old Toph? Nah. I think Toph takes it.
Do you think so? Because actually, I think with old Boomy, he's aged a lot more than, because even when she was fighting Korra and after she said, "Don't tell her that my back hurts," you know what I mean? Like, obvious that her physical ailments kind of plague her a little bit more than Boomy's did in old age.
Probably because he was more physical in general, so he aged. He's kept his prime longer. She was a lot more efficient, so she didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm gonna wait and reserve judgment on that one until I revisit what Boomy was doing during like the White Lotus assault, because I don't really remember it, and I'll see what he was bringing to the table. But I feel like
he was wrecking shop.
And I feel like, because Antoine's got a point. She did say that, like she was out of her physical prime by that point. But there's a sweet spot before she's got super fucking old. Yeah. Where I feel like,
no, I'm saying like prime Toph, which we haven't seen,
right,
has to be good or it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like she has to be beyond better than anyone else. No one was messing with her when she was holding down Republic City, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, given what we know of her abilities at this age and later on as well, in terms of the appropriate scaling, she has to be basically the best bender full stop outside of the Avatar for it to make any kind of sense. If she's this good at 10, 20 years on with experience, physical prime, all of her training that she's had in that time, enhanced by metal bending, that she has to be like leagues above anyone but the Avatar. It just doesn't make sense otherwise.
Well, unless you have a cheat.
Unless you have a specific cheat, obviously, yeah. Without
like Yakon, right? Exactly.
Right.
Which is the cheat. It was obviously the cheat.
Yeah. But anyway, but Toph single-handedly wipes out everyone in the room. Shows this visual display to get the approval of a trainer, if not her father, who, as we said before, is ironically completely blind to her nature, and that leads us into the scene where you have like the genuinely touching moment between her and her parents, because she's explaining, this is a very mature and well written scene. This is proof that Toph doesn't have this particular emotional hurdle to jump over, it's their problem, not hers. She obviously struggles with it throughout the series. It's not something that she just puts away and is fine with. It's definitely an emotional baggage, but it's not a bit of development she personally needs. It's just a situation she needs to deal with the parents. I like that because this is really well put. You could use this explanation scene and attach it to almost anything you'd ever have to talk to your parents about of any significance. Yeah,
it's very effective. When she speaks with Katara of this matter, like later on, I buy that she's moved on. It's just like this arc doesn't get there. Like we don't see how they adjust to it ever, or at least not in the series. But yeah, I totally agree that she's not the one. Like they need to adjust to her. She doesn't need to adjust to them.
Yeah.
And that's usually the case with characters who don't have arcs, is that it's the world around them that changes because of how strong they are or what kind of qualities they put out into the world. Like within stories, there needs to be arcs somewhere, whether it is your character or outside of it. And within the case of Toph, it's people learning from her and kind of like taking from her lead, even if they aren't doing it, like her parents don't even like listen to her.
So if y'all paid attention to what Antoine just said, Toph shifts the world around her.
Yeah.
I was going to say, she's an earthbender. Like, that is just the most amazing, it's the most amazing thing.
It's incredibly impressive how well tied to her philosophy her personality is without overtly, being presented as such. It's not just a case of earthbenders are stubborn, therefore she's stubborn. It's more nuanced than that. It's her whole.
It's a lot more.
It's her whole perspective, defining the way her philosophy enhances her specific abilities.
Specifical.
Wow. It's a word now.
English?
Yeah. But yeah, just different. I'm Shakespeare. Deal with it. But yeah, the different words that the different ways she uses her bending and the philosophies attached to it. The fact that she lives and breathes what makes her the best earthbender in the world. Basically, it's really effective, and it isn't overt. It's drip fed you over the course of all of her little individual emotional moments and tidbits throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
Very effective.
Which is, I think, it's so cool. Like, obviously this shows for primarily was aimed at like younger kids, so it's a really good way of teaching them without being like hammering it into their brains. Her story arc and the way she impacts the world. So cool.
It's interesting that the Earthbender is the one that gets the most subtlety when it comes to emotional and character development, even if it's not. It's at the expense of particular depth of growth. It's still interesting.
I wanted to mention real quick before we talk about whatever else we wanted to end up on, but the guy, her instructor, if you want to call him that, I like his voice actor. I don't know his name, but he played Uncle on Jackie Chan Adventures, which was another great cartoon.
One more thing.
Yeah. So in case anybody never watched that, go watch that.
Yeah, it's a great show. Yeah, I love that character as well. It's brilliant. I knew I recognised it from somewhere. I was struggling with him.
Yeah.
But that's who
it's because he was hammering up way more in that other cartoon, so it was more of a thank you. That was bugging me.
No problem.
But yeah, we get the wrap up on the parents. Toph having that great conversation and dealing with this sort of issue the way she should, head on like an earthbender. And then we get them cutting to the gang who are probably to leave when Toph turns up. It's like, oh yeah, my dad changed his mind. It's fine. Honestly, guys, yeah, we buy that.
It's interesting that you phrase it that way because like that is a part of what I think bothers her about it is that she didn't get results doing it that way, like facing it like an earthbender. She leaves without their knowledge, and like she does it behind their back, and she feels some measure of guilt over how this ends at this moment. That's what she's still kind of wrestling with later on.
Oh yeah,
it's interesting, like you said, how that feeds into her personality.
Yeah, she's specifically running away from the problem, but not because she didn't try. It's just she didn't get results the other way. So yeah, it's a new method for her, and she knows what she's leaving behind. She's not unaware
it doesn't
of
sit well with her.
Yeah, precisely. She's not happy with the fact that she just hurt her parents, which is very, very powerful. Because specifically for someone like Toph, who's very abrasive and seems to be uncaring a lot of the time, she isn't. She just she has less time for it, and when it comes to her parents, she does have time, which is why this is affecting her.
She doesn't ever leave anywhere. All she's ever known is that house and her parents. So, yeah, you would think that has a big impact on her. And
it's got to be frustrating knowing that she's leaving for all the right reasons and that they still don't care about that. They don't see that. So, that's a disappointment factor in her. I'm disappointed in my own parents. It hurts to have that.
Well, again, those are the only relationships that she's ever had is with her parents. So it's like if they don't approve, if they won't let her be who she is, like I can't imagine how that would feel. I can't imagine. That would suck. So
Yeah, it would feel great, wouldn't it? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I know what you mean. Yeah, we got to see some of the repercussions of that as well on a more basic, mundane level in the very next episode. So we'll get to talk about that a bit more later. But yeah, we get the introduction of the running gag with the belt being dropped down. Like, ow! And I was like, sorry, I forgot you were blind.
She kind of needed that. She was so awesome in this episode.
Yeah.
We had to see her make a little bit of a, just be the butt of a joke.
yeah,
for
she's
once.
she's imperfect.
She can't be flawless. She's too good in combat to not have at least some of the mick taken out of it, which is very effective, I think.
Well,
She plays off
see later
Sokka
too
very
that
well, actually,
flight-
comedically speaking.
Yeah.
The two of them are amazing together.
Yeah, they're the best.
Because we
Which
know
is
that
cool,
flight
too.
is the thing that she doesn't like. Because later when they're fighting the wasp in book 3, that's like, I can't fight these things because they are flying in midair.
I can't
Yeah.
see them.
Is that book 3? I thought
That's
that was
book
maybe
two.
book
That's book
two.
two.
No,
It's
that's
the
book
desert.
2. That's book 2.
Yeah, that's in the desert, right?
Yeah, it's
We're,
the
Yeah.
getting- we're almost there.
Yeah.
Oh my
we're
goodness,
I'm
I'm
almost.
Yeah.
Well, he does. He kills all of them, as Matt mentioned before.
Right,
and
right. Oh
kills
yeah,
one.
that's right. You did mention
Right,
the
yeah.
killing. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, we
He's
cut.
a murderer.
Well, quickly wrapping up though, we cut back to the dad who sent the earthbending goons after her, giving them the chest of gold and said, "Go get my daughter
They
back."
have
And
another
the
team of
Pulp
people
Fiction
chasing
gold.
them.
yeah, it's there are a lot of people that get sent to try and bring in the gang in various different configurations.
Yeah.
in
I
all the
mean,
series.
forget about Azula, or like these are the guys you gotta like worry about.
Them and Sparky Boom, man.
Oh yeah, you do have to worry about
Sparky,
them.
Sparky, man.
You do have
And
to worry about
and the
them.
episode ends with Toph's first flight off into the night. You know, it focuses on her kind of hanging over Appa's side and just relishing this
Yeah, that
newfound
would be.
freedom. With
I don't
Yeah.
envy her.
feeling.
I think at that moment she's experiencing a little bit of regret. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, I
That
can't
was-
see
I
anything.
can't see a thing.
Yeah.
Flying
I'm
through the air
floating.
and not being able to see a thing. It's got to be horrible. I mean, obviously you can see
Yeah.
Appa, but that's about it. But yeah, that's the end of the episode, guys. It's much easier to talk about this one without going into great depth than others because plot-wise, it's very condensed. It's like half of it is action. It's all just talking about the styles, really. Very much
Right.
enjoy it though. It's always been a highlight for me in the series.
Yeah, and the other half was like a character piece, which we're going to continue with in the
Yeah.
next episode, I believe, right?
Yes,
with
we are.
Zuko
Zuko
alone.
alone? Yeah, buddy.
It's like one of my
We've all
other
been
favorite
waiting for that one.
episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Like the episode where you're like, this isn't just a kids show.
Oh yeah,
It's
if
amazing.
the storm hasn't done that for you already, which I know it did for all of us, yeah, this is one that's going to get you. it's
Yeah,
just
for sure.
it's so well crafted, but we'll get to that there next week.
hmm
With all that said, if anyone else doesn't have anything else to say, I am Roti 4 and I still don't have an outro.
Sure, he doesn't. Gridget at 91. Goodbye.
This is Turk McGurk signing off. Stay flaming.
Antoine Bandit. Peace, love. And remember, be water, my friends.
Goodbye.